que creo que es una cuestión clave aquí, de la que nos va a hablar. Y ya arrancando un poco la ponencia de Ken tiene cierto dominio del castellano, pero no se sentía cómodo, así que me ha pedido que os lea aquí la introducción, digamos, la traducción al castellano de esta charla, lo que es el abstract, que va así. Imaginemos utopía, un mundo sin copyright, sin micropagos, sin royalties, sin beneficios, sin atribuciones, sin licencias, sin propiedades. Vamos a imaginarnos un mundo sin dinero. De hecho, imaginemos que el dinero ni tan solo existe, nadie lo toca, nadie paga y nadie es pagado. Vamos a imaginarnos un mundo sin subvenciones, sin apoyos gubernamentales, sin campañas electorales, sin financiamiento. Vamos a imaginarnos un mundo sin anuncios, sin listas de correo ni campañas promocionales, sin represión, sin cajas de donaciones. Imaginemos un mundo sin burocracia, sin patrones, sin comités, sin abogados, sin agentes, sin contratos. Imaginemos un mundo de discos duros ilimitados, de servidores sin límites y de banda ancha ilimitada, sin captchas, sin esperas. Imaginemos un mundo sin números, sin estadísticas, sin contadores de descargas, sin clics. Imaginemos un mundo en el cual no importa si tienes 3 visitantes diarios o 3000. Vamos a imaginar un mundo donde el contenido de una web es demasiado críptico, demasiado confuso y demasiado intelectual para que cualquier gobierno lo entienda y por extensión lo censure. Imaginemos artworks que funcionan fuera de la imperante normativa capitalista, donde su valor es más histórico o estético que económico. Imaginemos ahora un mundo donde las decisiones no están tomadas por comités o basadas en la popularidad, sin tener que dar explicaciones de contabilidad o autoridad. Un mundo donde la representación es subjetiva y excéntrica, una corazonada, un sentimiento. Imaginemos un mundo que abraza el riesgo, la incerteza, la inestabilidad, el capricho. Imaginemos un mundo privado de argumentos históricos. De hecho, vamos a imaginarnos un mundo sin argumentos de ningún tipo. This is paradise now. Y dicho esto, os dejo, sin demora, con Kenneth Goldsmith.
Thank you, comment. Great to meet you. Thank you, Jose, for making this possible. I really appreciate it. This is fantastic to be here. Of course, my Spanish is terrible, so I'll be speaking in English, and I'll try to keep it slow and clear. If I'm going too fast, somebody please just say, slow down, okay? And for English speakers, just bear with me. So, yeah, this little manifesto that Carmen just read really sums up my interest in this website. I think I'll just give a very quick overview of what UbuWeb is, in case you don't know. But then I don't think I'm going to talk too much more about the content on the site. Ubu is the largest site for avant-garde art, literature, music, and film on the internet. I began it in 1996, and somehow, I don't know how, I've managed to continue on today doing what I do without being sued, because it's pretty much illegal. But now I'm beginning to talk about what I'm interested in and not the site. So the site has several parts to it. The biggest section of it is the sound section, and this is all downloadable MP3s from all of these artists. And if you go if for instance, if I can't even find this, but if you go to somebody like John Cage, there's many tracks here, as well as full-length recordings These are all lectures and interviews by Cage. Each one is streaming, but also, very importantly, it's all downloadable. These are all, if you can see down here that this leads to a MP3 that's downloadable. So that it's very deep, it's very, very rich. At this point, I mean, I don't even know what's here anymore. It's been many years since I knew it was on the site. The other part of the site that I like so much is the film and video. And again, why don't we just use Cage as an example, since he's a sort of godfather of the site. You have all of these many films by John Cage, and if you click on one, it brings up a streaming screen, but also, again, just as important, is a link to a MOV file or MP4 or AVI, something you can take with you. I'll talk more about that. But the film site, the film section, again, is very, very, very in-depth and very bandwidth consuming. Look at that, I don't even know. There's also a section that has academic papers on words and various things about sound, radio, film, conceptual and performance art, data, surrealism, futurism. Okay, and then there's many other parts of the site, but you probably know them. This is a very well, I want to say it's a very unreliable archive. It's a very unofficial archive. It's mistaken often for an institution, which it's not. It's kind of my collection of things that I think are cool in the world, but it just happens that it's a collection of many, I don't know, tens of thousands of things instead of, a little table full of things. When I began the site, it began as a site for visual and concrete poetry, which I love very much, and it still retains a very large section of visual and concrete poetry. When the bandwidth increased, we began to add sound poetry, and what happened when we added sound poetry was we began to think about the works of John Cage. Again, just to go back to Cage, it's always the best example. And Cage would do sound poetry, but it would also be linked up with an orchestra. And he'd be doing these beautiful poetry interpretations alongside an orchestra. And it got a little messy because I was like, wait, is this kind of avant-garde music or is it still sound poetry? And the more I began to get into it, the more these lines began to dissolve for me. And then I just began to think of this site as avant-garde. Now, I don't know what avant-garde is. I mean, it's a term you couldn't use. In the 1980s, you were not allowed to say the word avant-garde. It had patriarchal connotations. It had connotations of modernism, all sorts of bad things. But the internet sort of gave us a sense, again, of avant-garde. I mean, in the best sort of way that the avant-garde was utopian, in that a painter was never a painter. Like Picasso also wrote poems, did performances, did sets, It was always kind of the best part of modernism and the best part of avant-garde was actually very messy. And, on the website here we have Salvador Dali's sound poetry, we have his films, we have his promotional for bank, this is good because it's in Spanish. I should just play this because it actually represents everything that I want to do here, that I want to talk about, the impurity. Because I found that actually modernism was very impure. Nobody knows that. They mistake modernism for being pure. Okay, we just listened to a minute of this. This is so. I guess maybe.
Nome para un anagram para André Breton, A vida donna, lequel anagramme avait été fait avec une petite mauvaise intention, croyant me gêner.
Oh no, he's speaking in French now. Anyway, it's a beautiful thing. Anyway, it's him talking about how great money is and all sorts of bank ads. I think if I go into the film, we can see some of that again in some of the advertisements that Dali did. This is fantastic. This is which one it would be good to listen to in Spanish? Somebody tell me. These are advertisements. This one? The Lanvin. This one, De Pequeño.
Cuando yo era muy pequeño, quería ser una cocinera. Después, empecé ya cuando tenía 6 años, quería ser Napoleón. Desde entonces, mi máxima ambición no ha hecho que crecer. Y ahora, lo que más me gustaría es poder ser nada menos que Salvador Dalí.
Okay, so I mean, this is just really, really crazy and really impure, and I adore that. Maybe we'll watch one more. Is this one? This the Lanvin is. I don't know if it's in French, but we just have a quick look at that one.
Je suis fou du chocolat Lanvin.
First, it dissolves. Happy vowels, but devoted vowels. Then the Alka-Seltzer shoots into the stomach. Here, it neutralizes that bad excess acid. Meantime, the special for aspirin is speeding into your bloodstream to all places of pain. So those beautiful places will feel beautiful again. Alka-Seltzer is a work of art, truly one of a kind, like Dalí. En esta tierra hay eso, un veterano sabor. Veterano tiene eso.
So it's great, isn't it? And that, I mean, that to me, Dali is so complicated and so great, and in a way that's very similar to say Warhol, and it's a sort of impurity that I've become very interested in on Ubu. I mean, the art world itself is so segregated, it's such a little ghetto, and here, one of a strange thing that happens on Ubu is you have really weird people getting together, like, for example, this right here. You have Samuel Beckett, the films of Samuel Beckett, right next to the films of Captain Beefheart. And you'd say, where else are those two names ever mentioned together, right? Captain Beefheart and Samuel Beckett. But you can't imagine that, of course, Captain Beefheart couldn't exist without Samuel Beckett. So I think this is the true story of the way that art really happens. And of course, most people that love Captain Beefheart eventually discover Samuel Beckett. It's just you start with Frank Zappa, and then you go to Captain Beefheart, and then you go to Ornette Coleman, and suddenly you find yourself reading Samuel Beckett. And that's kind of the way it really works. And not even in a place like The Wire do you see Samuel Beckett and Captain Beefheart. I mean, I love The Wire. I sometimes write for them, but I often think that this idea of purity is not really where it's at. So this is my personal opinion. And if anybody was going to do Ubu Web the way it should be done correctly, say an art historian, they would never, but they wouldn't have, Captain Captain Beefheart in there to start with. You know, they wouldn't put they wouldn't put Dali's Lanvin ad in there. You see, they would put, you know, the historical idea of Dali, you know, with the melting clock, the persistence of memory. I say, no, Uberweb is a very strange place. It's a place where the production of artists that wasn't their primary production of art becomes their primary production of art. I have a very funny thing to show you here. And in the sound section, this is one of my my very favorite things. Okay, there's this. This is the experimental sound work of Jean Dubuffet, and it's really interesting. Or something like this. Right, and now, besides, you know, most people don't know that Jean Dubuffet was a musician. You know Jean Dubuffet for his paintings that you see in the galleries. So, but what happens is, you have a whole generation of people, because Uberweb has been around for so long, who go, Jean Dubuffet, this great musician. Did you also know that he also made paintings, right? So the whole thing is completely messed up, and that's that kind of thing that really happens. Oh, Salvador Dali, he was also a painter? Oh, I thought he was just this crazy guy that made advertisements. So that's what starts to happen here, and that's the part that I really like. The other thing that starts to happen on Uberweb is that most people don't care about these artists and their historical context. I mean, nobody cares about this stuff. I mean, you know, we care, but the big world really doesn't care. And so kids like that are doing this kind of music over here have begun to use Uberweb as like a place to get cool sounds, right? And throw it into dance mixes. So this whole decontextualization of things that were very serious are now finding their way onto the dance floor. And I really like that. Bruce Nauman, I heard that in a club in Sao Paulo, the Bruce Nauman things, I'll play you one of them. They're being mixed in, and it's a big hit. You know, I mean, somebody's actually taken this and made them a big hit on the dance floors of Sao Paulo. This is the one the sample that they used.
Get out of the room. Get out.
So he's saying, get out of the room, get out of my mind. Okay, so imagine, you can actually almost hear it with these kind of beats. And so so this is maybe the larger point of what I want to talk about, is that at this point culture has really become fodder for some remix, something disengaged. I can say, oh, very seriously, this is a site for the avant-garde, and it is that. But more interestingly to me, it's become completely detached from what it sort of should be. And I think, so I think that it gives all of these weird works, sort of a second life. On the other hand, Ubu is used in schools. Ubu went down for a couple of days, and I got all these frantic emails from professors and say, I can't teach my lesson. So schools are using this, but why are schools using this? Don't schools have their own materials? I mean, you think universities would have great libraries, but guess what? They don't. They don't have these things. Or you would think that professors would have great budgets to rent all the great video art to show their students. And the fact is that they don't have any money at all. They're given something like 200 or 300 euros for the semester to rent, and that can rent you one video, for 24 hours, and that's it. So it's become this kind of cultural resource for education as well. And a lot of PhDs are now citing UbuWeb, which I find to be very funny, because it's all wrong. You see, if an art historian were to do this, first of all, well, okay, I'd say this, right? MoMA in New York, which their holdings, what they have in their storage, is much more than we have on Ubu. But their website shows you the exhibitions that they have on now, and they show you the menu for lunch, what they're serving in the cafeteria. They don't give you anything. But if they did, it would, I figure right now, to put this together the way it is today, if you were to do this legitimately, it would cost 3 million euros to do it the right way, to get the, because if MoMA wants to do something, then they have to sign a paper, they have to sign a contract, they have to make royalty payments, they have to establish things with lawyers, with the estates, with the banks, with the other copyright holders, then they have to make licensing agreements, and then they have to get digital rights for the web, and on and on and on. Ubu, I've never signed a paper, not one paper at all, and it reminds me of this movie. As a result, I don't think Ubu can ever be sold, because it's a rat's nest of copyright. And it reminds me of this movie. Do you remember this movie, 24-Hour Party People, which is the Factory Records story? And at the end, I think EMI comes to buy Factory Records, and Tony Wilson shows them a piece of paper that has some blood on it, and they're laughing because they can walk away with this very valuable catalog for no money at all, because he didn't own the rights to anything. So Ubu is just, it's so pure in this kind of great way, and this is what comment we were talking about with this kind of utopia, because it can happen. We don't touch money. There's no money in Ubu. I won't. If Red Bull wanted to give me 3 million euros today, say we want UbuWeb, well, that would be kind of good. But I'd have to, I don't think maybe they could buy it if they want to clear the copyrights, but if they want to pay me for it, say, you're doing something great, this is a cultural resource, I'd have to say no, because if I take money, then I have to start to pay Bruce Nauman, and then I have to start to pay Salvador Dali. It would only be right to do. That would be the right thing to do. If I take money in that kind of way, then I'd have to pay Bertolt Brecht and George Gross Kirchfitters and Reza Abdo, And can you imagine? I'd spend the rest of my life writing checks to everybody, because there's just so many. I don't even know how many artists there are here. But it's a weird thing, because I don't take money and Ubu doesn't touch money, it sort of seems okay with people, And so I found this kind of weird gray zone in copyright, where copyright really doesn't exist. And the big scare of copyright, I think corporations use copyright just to scare people. Take that down, MP3 blogs all the time. This was taken down, violation of copyright. Oftentimes, I find that people don't even own the copyright to the thing that they're claiming, and that happens most of the time. Corporations or even artists' estates don't own the rights to what they have. I had a very funny experience where I have the works of William S. Burroughs, of which we have many here. Look at this. On and on and on and on. Fantastic, fantastic things.
Progressive education. When Kim was 15, his father allowed him to withdraw from the school because he was so unhappy there and so much disliked by the other boys and their parents. "I don't want that boy in the house again," said Colonel Greenfield. "He looks like a sheep-killing dog."
Okay, so one day I got an email from the representative, this very powerful literary agency that represents William S. Burroughs. And they said a very official DMCA takedown notice. Under the threat of perjury, I claim the following to be true: that everything in this list belongs to the estate of William S. Burroughs, and you must take it all down. And so I look, and they put in the name into the search engine on Ubu. They put in the name William S. Burroughs, and they cut and copied every instance of William S. Burroughs, including an academic paper where they discuss the name of William S. Burroughs. Or on Ubu, we have the works of a wonderful artist named Momus. And Momus, in one of his songs, says, "I love you, William S. Burroughs." I mean, the most ridiculous thing. And I think they expected me to go, "Oh, we're very sorry. We'll take it all down." But I looked at it, and actually almost nothing. The films that have William S. Burroughs in it by Anthony Balk are not owned by William S. Burroughs. They're actually owned by Anthony Balk. All of this audio comes from Giorno Poetry Systems, which is the copyright. So Burroughs doesn't have any claim. The Burroughs estate has no claim on all of this audio that I just showed you. And actually, there's almost nothing that the estate or the literary agent has claim on. So I wrote her back. And I write this whatever it was, lawyer or something back, and I just say, basically, go fuck yourself, because you don't own the copyright. I see what you're trying to do here, but you're not going about it the right way. Now, if you could go back and tell me what you really own, then we can talk about it, right? And so suddenly they become very nice, because nobody ever pushes back on them, and they go, we were just acting on the orders of the estate, and da-da-da-da-da. I said, you're perjuring yourself, because you claim these things to be true, and they're not true at all. And so I could actually turn around and sue them, because she's completely made herself guilty by making false statements. Believe me, I'm not going to do it, but I understand this. So she came back with another thing, and again, it was all wrong. Now these were just the works of William S. Burroughs, but you don't have copyright to these things. Back and forth, back and forth. You know what? They finally went away, right? They finally went away. So this happens all the time to me, and I don't ask permission. UbuWeb doesn't ask permission. As a matter of fact, I often say, if UbuWeb had to ask for permission, UbuWeb wouldn't exist. Because the minute you ask for permission, you ask for trouble. "Oh, excuse me, the estate of Salvador Dali, can we put all your films up? Or can we put some sound works of yours up?" First of all, you know how many letters they get like this for the estate of Salvador Dali. They won't even answer you. Second of all, "Oh yes, maybe you can, but you must go through our licensing agent," and then you have to begin to negotiate with the agent, and then of course the agent's going to ask you for money, and of course there's going to be paperwork, and please run it by your lawyer. Forget it. You never ask for permission. In the old days, I used to do that, and even with an artist, it's too complicated. In the old days, would ask an artist, "Would it be okay?" And then it becomes very complicated. I spend my whole life writing emails back and forth to do it. I just said, forget it, finally. So you can't ask for permission, you just have to put things up. And that's exactly what I do, is I just put things up. And then if somebody's upset, and it does happen that people are upset, then I talk about it. Now the other great thing that I did was I took UbuWeb off of Google, right? You can't find UbuWeb on Google, like directly. You can find it, people linking to it on Google, but you can't find the things on Ubu. It's on all the bad search engines, the ones nobody uses, Alta Vista, Ask Jeeves, Dogpile, Bing, all the ones that nobody uses, UbuWeb is still on. But the reason was Google alerts. People, copyright holders and at galleries, or would you see, all of this stuff has no economic value. It has great philosophical, historical, cultural, political value, but really, you can't sell it. Even if you try to, and people have tried to, and they just lose money trying to sell it. But what happens is sometimes a sound poet will pass away, and his sister, in Ohio, gets the estate and says, aha, now I will make my money on this work. And they put a Google alert on the name, and anytime it comes up on the web, we want money for that. And so with Google Alert, I would be waking up in the morning, and I'd do some fantastic things. I put things up that are out of print. By the way, Ubu only puts things up that are out of print. I don't, if somebody's really trying to release a John Cage CD, I don't put it up there because it's very important to support people. I would never do it because it's a complete, nobody buys them. They're going to lose money, but I support them. And if something on Ubu goes back into print, I take it down. And I often get an email saying, thank you for putting this up, but we've now put it back into print. And so then I'll take that down as well. I mean, I want those people to survive, to exist. It's very important. At any rate, the Google alerts began to kind of kill me because I'd wake up in the morning and I'd put up all sorts of things that were long out of print, that were really obscure, and then of course the sister in Ohio says, aha, and I'd wake up and it'd be a nightmare. Now I have a full-time job, I have 2 kids, I don't have time to really do all this correspondence. So this is the reason that I removed UbuWeb from Google. The other thing that I want to say is that UbuWeb, the quality of things is very bad, and I think that's important that the quality is bad. The MP3s are very bad. Most importantly, the films are very bad, which, you see the quality of that. I think it's important for cinema to be presented in the right way. I like going to cinema, to the movies. This is not cinema by any means. And I made a point of this a couple of years ago, 2 summers ago. Lincoln Center in New York asked me to do a night of UbuWeb films. And I was asked to do it at the most important cinema screen in New York City, called the Walter Reed Theater in Lincoln Center. This is where the best films get shown. And I said, okay, I'll do it, but you have to show AVIs from the computer. You can't go get the real thing. You must show, AVIs and MP4s. And it was the worst 2 hours of film ever. Each pixel was the size of this screen. You couldn't see a thing. And it was really very beautiful, because the point was that, no, if you think, and oftentimes I get this from people, that UbuWeb is killing avant-garde cinema. They point at me, and I've had terrible fights with some mailing lists. They say, you are the cause that our art form is dying. People love UbuWeb, and they don't come to the movies anymore. Blah, 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 blah. I said, and the point from the Lincoln Center was, if you really think that this stupid little screen can kill your art form, your art form must be in trouble anyway, right? And I also wanted to say that distribution and proper screening, again, is very important. And there are places where you have to pay a lot of money to get the proper copy, but having this work up on Ubu doesn't disturb their business model at all. As a matter of fact, I think it often helps with rentals. Oh, look at this terrible, it's like looking at a photograph of a painting. It's not, you look at the photograph of the Van Gogh, it's not the same as going to see the, you see the Van Gogh, you see how thick it is, the colors, there's a difference here. This is a reproduction. But the problem is, for many people who don't live in a great cultural place like Madrid or New York, for many, and that's most people, you're very privileged to live in a place where you can actually go and see things, go see beautiful paintings and proper cinema. But most people don't have that advantage. And I know that most of UbuWeb's audience doesn't live in cultural centers like this. They live in rural places. They live in places, very small places, tied to parents who may be sick, or a family, or working a job, places where they have no resource to this. So in a weird way, the bad quality of Ubu has become the real thing for them. And that's sort of the way that Ubu's become. Ubu, it's bad. It's poorly done. If you look at the works of William S. Burroughs, there's a lot of audio works of William S. Burroughs that aren't here. Why are these ones here? I don't know, because these were the ones that I had in my collection, or these were the ones that were on file sharing. I don't know. You don't ask me. And also a lot of the text. If you find text that goes with this, it's not real. It's just shit I find on the internet. I didn't write this. Look, this is from the Singer Saints blog. I don't know. They were writing about this here. I don't know if the guy at Singer Saints blog knows what he's talking about. I really don't care. It feels like it needs something. So if MoMA was doing this, of course, they would have art historians writing it properly. And you know what? I think that I look forward to that day when UbuWeb is done right, and UbuWeb is shown to be really the kind of crap that it really is. I mean, imagine UbuWeb done properly, right? It would be really good, and then nobody uses UbuWeb anymore because it's all the information is wrong, all the films are missing. What is this? Well, you know what it is? It's like a weird Wunderkammer, of my interest. It's an artist's idea of what art is. It's impure, it's wrong, it's stolen. Sometimes videos crap out halfway through. People get very upset and they write an email, oh, the video is crapping out halfway through, and I write them back, well, sorry, we'll return your money. What do you think? What do you think this is? Go find it somewhere else then. Why? Don't blame me. I'm just sharing the kind of shit that I think is cool. So I mean, maybe I can end with this idea, is that the idea that it should be done better, and I look forward to the day it's been done, that it will be done better. But the fact is, it hasn't been done at all, right? And it 15, 16 years later, it hasn't been done. And why hasn't it been done? Because of the thing that Carmen read before. Because everybody is afraid of copyright. And I'm telling you, honestly, copyright really doesn't exist. Not on this level anyway. Madonna, Lady Gaga, yes. Yes. Lady Gaga. If I was Lady Gaga, I would want to protect that, multi-million-dollar empire. She's, you have to understand there are different types of economies. So when people talk about information wants to be free and, all of this kind of stuff all over the web, it's like it's too broad. There are many different types of economies that can respond to different types of copyright. You say copyright is bad. Copyright isn't just bad. I mean, it's bad for this. It's not so bad for Lady Gaga. Who cares? But you won't find Lady Gaga on UbuWeb. You find Joseph Beuys. And what sells for Joseph Beuys is not his new wave videos or him going yeah, nay, nay, nay. It's a felt suit that sells for $2 million at Sotheby's or in the museum, and that's what people seem to really care about. So this is all it is done wrong. So you shouldn't be afraid of copyright. Really, this is, I think, what my point is. And I can talk a little bit later if the questions about my feeling about the mega upload situation. The last thing I just want to say, because I know I didn't say this, how is it possible that UbuWeb runs on no money? The work is all done by volunteers, done by students, done by myself. The bandwidth and the server space is donated by an art school in Mexico City called Centro, and it's unlimited, completely unlimited, and one of the worst things that can happen is that you get a notice on Metafilter or Boing Boing or Slashdot, and they're pointing at something that you're doing, and suddenly you get a bill from your ISP. Bandwidth exceeded, limit is exceeded, and then you get a bill for 5,000 euros that month for all the people that love you for downloading this. The bandwidth on Ubu is I can't even tell you how much money it would cost me to run it if I had to run it out of my pocket. If I actually had to pay for bandwidth, it would be hundreds of thousands of euros every month. It's pulling, last count, it was pulling 2 gigabytes of bandwidth a second. 2 gigabit, that's worldwide. So we're very fortunate to have that. The only thing that I pay for is this, and this I love. My only money that I pay for is this, and this is a URL, ubu.com, 3 letters, symmetrical, ubu, and not only that, it says something in English, ubu, right? And so the way I got that was a friend of mine was cyber squatting a lot of domain names in the old days, and he knew that UbuWeb used to be ubuweb.com, which it still is. He said, "Oh, you should have this one, but the only way I'm going to give it to you is if you promise never to sell it and you promise never to use it for anything commercial." I said, "Great." So now I have companies calling me all the time, offering me lots of money to buy the domain. You know, our toothpaste lets you be you. You know, our deodorant lets you be you. And it's so great, I always write them the same letter. I say, "Dear sirs, fuck you. Ubu.com is reserved for poetry." Okay, thank you.
Ahora sí. A mí se me ha hecho muy corto. Creo que podemos pasar a la sesión de preguntas y respuestas, y supongo que habrá gente con mucho que preguntar aquí. Os pediría por una cuestión lingüística que si pudierais haceros en inglés, si no pudierais, yo puedo echar una mano.
Thank you very much. It was fine, really. I want to ask you a little bit about how it works. You know, I cannot possibly put all the things, yourself, alone. You cannot possibly know about every tiny fragment of audio or video or text or whatever. Do you have like correspondents, let's say, people who collaborate with you? I don't know.
Yeah, sometimes, mostly not. Mostly it's me, and I don't know everything, but I kind of get a feeling that it's important, that it might sort of be, even things I don't know about, it's kind of like there's, you know, connections, you know, family tree, this kind of thing. There have been people, we have a collaboration with Bidoon magazine, which is avant-garde art from the Middle East, and that's been amazing. Because they've been amazing. I mean, it's absolutely incredible the content that they've brought to Ubu. Ubu is sexist and it's racist because the history of the avant-garde was kind of all white and all male. You know, I don't know. That's just the way it was. And I often would like more diversity, but I don't. You know, if this was a government site, if I was receiving money from the government, there would be a mandate for more diversity. I'd have to show numbers. There's so many black people, this many women, this many Asians. You know, I don't have to do that, but of course I like more diversity. So I try to get people to work with for Bidoon that could bring a more diverse idea to Ubu. Another example of that was I was having a conversation in London with the editor of Freeze magazine, Jennifer Higgy, and Jennifer was saying, "Oh, I teach and I use Ubu all the time." I said, and when people tell me that, I say, "Well, what can be better? How can it be better?" And she said, "Well, that's easy. There could be more women, right?" And I said, "Well, Jennifer, why don't you curate a show on Ubu and get me more good women video artists?" Which she did. She created a beautiful show. We ended up with probably 70 or 80 more videos by contemporary women artists on Ubu. This is fantastic. So somebody comes up with an idea. We collaborated with MACBA in Barcelona, who gave us incredible Spanish we have a beautiful section of Spanish avant-garde music and scores of things that again fit in. That of course I don't know about, but Ana Ramos, who works at Radio Web Macba, a fantastic organization, gave us 100 MP3s and proper, by the way, proper documentation of things. So UberWeb is also, I want to say it's half legitimate. I like to say it's outlaw, I like to say it's terrible, but in fact when people like Badoon or Jennifer Higgy from Freeze or Ana Ramos from MACBA give us things, it comes with proper documentation. And the longer it stays around, the more official it becomes. And people, now everybody wants to be on Ubu, because if you do something wrong long enough and do anything long enough, it becomes right. And so, this is the fucking way artists work. I mean, this is, bureaucrats don't work this way. Museums don't work this way. Artists like things that are wrong. Artists like doing things that are wrong. And but then it becomes sort of right eventually. So this is what happens, and then you get big names like Freeze or Badoon want to work with Ubu, which is fine. Why not? Just, it still has to be wrong.
Hello? I just have a question about your commitment to low quality of the audio and video on the site, because you also mentioned that this can be a resource for people in places who would otherwise not have access to this material. And for those people, having low quality doesn't help, right? And then you have when you have a newer artist curating something like bringing new video art, and they want this to be the main resource to show it, why would you want it to also be low quality? Is there a conflict there?
Well, I mean, if it stays low quality, it stays okay. We don't become a threat to anybody, which we are a threat philosophically, but not practically. So the example that I use the best, that I really like the best, is this, and I think this will show it the best. This was, if all of UberWeb could function like this. This is the work of a young artist who's very, very well known now in the States called Ryan Tricarden. And he is, born in 1981, and his work, is anybody familiar with his work, Tricarden? I mean, it's around. And Ryan kind of came up through the internet, and he was putting these very long and very complicated videos on YouTube, and he had a time limitation. It used to be you could only put 10 minutes up. So you take a 2-hour video and slice it into 25 parts. We've all watched those things. And he approached Ubu and said, I'd really like to have my archive up on Ubu. Now, what he does is really interesting, and I think this is the model for artists in the future. He puts his stuff now all on Ubu, and it's okay. He gives us the best quality possible. But if I can show you a minute of it, you'll see that it really isn't all that good, particularly in the streaming. Okay, it's a lo-fi aesthetic to start with. Most of it is cribbed from pre-existing footage, which kind of helps. But what this guy does is, so it goes on Ubu. He's got a gallery where he takes a DVD and signs it, and it sells for 100,000 euros, which I think is the most ridiculous thing in the world when they do that, but it's another type of economy, it's okay. Then he also shows in museums, properly in museums, and for museums to get the work, they have to go to a proper video distribution called EAI, and of course they pay a lot of money to proper video distribution for that. So he's working on from free culture to ridiculous, idea of gallery culture, and there are all these different types of versions that are available, all working together. Now, if Ubu was to stream high quality or to even offer high quality film, it would begin to to fuck with that system in a way that is kind of working for him and kind of working for me and kind of working for everybody. So it's this like really nice balance right now of commercial culture, of free culture, of museum culture, of official culture, of unofficial culture. And if Ubu was able, and I don't even know how they do it, sometimes you see like network television streaming in really high definition. I don't have that technology. It would begin to upset that balance, and I would get sued. They should. The video distribution would say, "Oh, you have no more use for us anymore." That's out. The gallery would say, "Oh, there's no more use for us." I look forward to that day, but I'm not really the person to do that. I'm operating illegally, so I have to keep things in balance. And the other answer to your question is that the materials often come to me in a degraded form. They're from file sharing. The best ones I love are the VHS rips, where it all goes like this. Where the whole thing is like that. I kind of love that old technology. So, yeah, do you understand? It kind of
But
works.
you're not opposed to an artist that gives you a really high quality file to put on the site.
No,
They say,
the new ones, right? The new artists do, but the historical stuff or the kind of bootleg stuff isn't. Ryan does do that. I won't say no, but I don't have the technology to stream it high, so it's always going to look ugly. It's ugly is good.
I think this must be like the 5th time we mentioned mega upload here. And mega upload is really more like a symbolic thing right now. It's this kind of constant threat of what might happen one day. And of course we know that like any other site, Google might at some point vanish from the, I used to say from the air, not here anymore, but it might actually vanish from the noosphere, if you will. And I was just wondering whether you have thought, or maybe your students or somebody has maybe brought up the idea of finding some social technological solution to this, maybe some P2P system which might do this, like our torrents, we use torrent files for this, or some other way to kind of mirror the site and maybe distribute the bandwidth. It sounds too technical, but really these are social things. It's a question of maybe establishing a community which might somehow guarantee that UbuWeb would never really disappear from the network.
Yeah, it's very fragile. It can disappear and will disappear tomorrow. I could get sued. Goodbye. I could get bored and walk away. I don't know. One big threat is that the server space in Mexico, they say goodbye and nobody wants to take this archive. The web is very fragile. We think it's there all the time. Oh, you see something fantastic, you go, oh, you bookmark that, I'll come back to that. You shouldn't bookmark it, you should download it. You should PDF, make a PDF of it. You take everything, because next time you go to find this thing, it's not going to be there. And this happens on Ubu. I do take things down. People get very angry. And when they get that angry and they don't want to talk and they don't want to hear it, and they get, and I don't have a right to tell them not to put it up, I take it down. Oh, I was going to teach that film. What happened to it? A real archive that wouldn't happen to, it would be permission, it would never go away. So, the web is really fragile, and I think, all these people took all this time to build these beautiful MP3 blogs, and then mega upload vanishes. We believe in this idea of a cloud. I think this cloud is complete bullshit, and I think it's a total fiction. As a matter of fact, if I wanted to go on the cloud right now, I need a password here. Otherwise, there's no cloud for me. And I was in China in the fall and attending an academic conference, and all the people from the conference kept their conference paper on Google Docs. guess what? No Google in China, right? So much for the fucking cloud, you know? And it was just like, what? You're crazy. You know, you're crazy. I use the cloud. I use Mega Upload to take things, but I wouldn't build UberWeb on that kind of a thing. So I think it's very problematic. Peer-to-peer file sharing, BitTorrent is also problematic because BitTorrent only rewards that which is popular. Okay, so if you go and you want Disney on Pirate Bay, 40,000 people are sharing the Disney film. But if you want the John Cage film, sorry, no seaters, right? And UberWeb wants to make available that which is unpopular, that which, you know, we like but nobody else cares about. So I think the torrent thing is a really problematic idea because torrents die for unpopular things. So you'd have the popular things on Uber being shared and all the best stuff, which is the one that nobody knows about, nobody would share. So I don't think torrent is a solution either. You know, it's ephemeral, man. It's the web. It's utopia, right? It is. It's a utopian moment. You enjoy it. Utopias, of course, never last. So you say, and then when it's gone, you'll be like, wasn't that a great time? You know, just like the way we're saying now about MP3 blocks. Wasn't that a great time? You're stupid if you didn't take it all. You're stupid if you don't download everything. Absolutely, do not trust that cloud. Maybe eventually when there's some sort of universal open standard where anywhere you go you can connect, everything is stable, blah blah blah. But right now people are just trying to own bandwidth, and I feel this way about social networking as well. I'm not on Facebook, but I've lost friends because they're on Facebook and I'm not. It's a very, very good friend of mine. I love him so much. He lives in Finland, so I don't see him. But he went to Facebook. He stopped using email, regular email, and he also stopped visiting the other places around the web because he figured it all came to him into Facebook, and he'd stay on Facebook. Now, I've lost touch with him. I don't have a friendship with him anymore because I refuse Facebook. But he's also doing what Facebook wants you to do, and that's stay on Facebook. Love Facebook. There's more money for them. This is the way that social networking is owning the internet, is by making people only stay on Facebook and not go to places like Google or not use email. So I think right now we're in a moment where everybody is trying to own this thing that really wants to be open and free. And it's not going to happen through coercion, it's going to happen through seduction. We're going to give you all this stuff for free, and we're going to keep you here. Oh, isn't this great? It's all for Google Docs. We're going to keep you on Google. Oh, it's all for free. So this is the bait that they draw you in. We're going to give, it's all free. And it's not free at all. Not free at all. I'm very suspicious.
See. First of all, thank you very much. It was a really incredible conference. And I had a question. I was thinking about some part of the introduction he made for you. And now that you talked about popularity of those files that can be shared in Pirate Bay and stuff like that. So you were saying, imagine a world where the websites are so cryptic or like weird to the government that they cannot close them. So do you think, this is more like a philosophical thing, that these things must keep on being weird and not popular to exist? I mean, not...
Yeah, I do. I mean, again, I talk about China. When I went to China, UberWeb is available in China, right? Now it's got much more sex and much more politics, the most radical things. But of course, they can't possibly understand it. I mean, they don't understand art. I mean, everybody wants to be Jeff Koons or Matthew Barney or somebody like that. Everybody wants to be in the spotlight. But I say no. It's better to be on the margin, on the outside, because nobody can understand it, and they don't really give a shit. And so you have running into the center. What is this? I mean, first of all, it's a face of an old man, Samuel Beckett. And most people go, they think this is the site for old people, for retirement. Kids come on, like, I don't want anything to do with that, So immediately it's a turnoff, for most people. They go, they can't possibly understand it. Even Brecht, and in Brecht we have his testimony before the Communist Committee in America, but even that's just too arcane. There's great censorship. There's great censorship. YouTube has great censorship. Maybe you don't know this or you don't know this. My wife is a video maker, and she's had videos censored because they have image sensing, that anything that's shaped like a cock or a pussy, they remove, even if it's a picture of a building, Washington Monument, or a cave or something. No, it was taken down because they've got filters that are very dumb and take down this kind of thing, So this doesn't. They look at this, they go, nah. It's a lot of fucking words and, look at that. Okay, it's okay.